Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. House Republicans considering a major expansion of taxes on college and university endowments. Endowments valued at $750,000 or less per student would be taxed at the current 1.4% rate on their investment income. Endowments valued between $750,000 and $1 million per student would be taxed at 10%, and those greater than $1 million per student, think Ivy League, Northwestern, places like that. Those with greater than $1 million would be taxed at 20%. Well, for going from 1.4 to 10 and 20%, honele, that's not going to sit well with fund managers who have those big endowments, not to mention the university personnel also already reeling, I should say, from threats of withholding millions, hundreds of millions, in Harvard's case, billions of dollars in federal grant funding. This is interesting because it could provide a stopgap, fill a void created by the extension of the Trump tax cuts from 2017 in toto, with the additions of the overtime exemption, the tip exemption, the Social Security exemption. Well, will start to get the attention. Well, I garner more attention because I think Trump has effectively gotten their attention thus far of these quote-unquote elite schools, even though, as Peter Thiel observed, there's nothing elite about Harvard and these schools anymore. This is what we've been saying for a long time, isn't it? That the only way you can really get the attention of these people in charge of these institutions is to hit them financially. Well, that's happening, and so far it turns out that, yeah, that's about right. That's the way to play it. Peter Wood is president of the National Association of Scholars. He's also the author of Wrath, America Enraged, and 1620, a critical response to the 1619 Project. Peter Wood, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
What do you think about this proposal to substantially raise the costs on colleges and limit the bandwidth they have with respect to their multi-billion-dollar endowments, at least the quote-unquote elite schools?
Right. Well, I think it's a very constructive move for the people of the United States, if not for the people of Cambridge, Massachusetts. The issue here is that these mega universities, the ones with the gigantic endowments, are not the friends of our nation anymore. They will occasionally pretend to be that, but the truth is that they use that wealth to position themselves as advocates of the new international order, and they educate students who are in many cases not from the United States, and the ones who are from the United States are brought to view their own country with disdain. So I don't see anything wrong with trying to pull these institutions back into the mainstream of American life, and if they're not willing to come, then they should pay what amounts to a tariff.
Well, right, the old joke is places like Harvard are hedge funds with universities attached to them. That's what they've become. And so, in addition to all the problems that we see on college campuses, Alan Garber, the president of Harvard, admits they have an anti-Semitism problem on campus, which is obvious, but it's still relatively rare when you have a university president essentially concede that his university is a incubator of bigotry. It's sort of startling. And you saw what happened at Columbia University last week. Has been happening for weeks on end with them taking over the library and the arrests that were made. And so on the one hand, there's the point about how anti-Western civilization these institutions are, and anti-American by extension. And on the other hand, it's a little bit of jujitsu at the left. These are, billion multi-billion-dollar endowments, the rich getting richer, and I thought you want people to pay their quote-unquote fair share, so why not start here?
Right. Well, they don't apply that logic consistently. I do think what their fallback position is that, well, okay, Garber says we have an anti-Semitism problem at Harvard, but we can take care of it ourselves. Back off. And if you don't back off, there's going to be all hell because you're interfering with the basic rights of faculty, and our research enterprise will die, and the whole world will suffer, and smallpox and every other major disease will be back because only we stand between you and the epidemic disasters that await us. So there's a kind of threat built into the, okay, we're guilty, but approach that Garber and others have been taking.
Well, right. And Bill Ackman, of course, Harvard grad, made the point last week, we talked about it a bit, that the approach that Harvard took is exactly the wrong approach. Rather than sort of conceding and wanting to be constructive, you throw down, you rally the ideologically opposed faculty against Trump and the administration, and you try to partner with other universities and they're ideologically opposed, the resistors, if you will. And, and you're going to go to war with the Trump administration over it. And Ackman sort of reminded, like as a baseline, grant funding is not your constitutional right. It's a privilege that's afforded. And so, it's sort of a very odd way to treat what amounts to a benefactor, and that's the American taxpayer.
Right, and they're willing to sue and use all sorts of lawfare to try to say the administration which grants the money can't take it away. Well, I think the courts will side with Trump on this one, but it's going to be a long fight, and issuing an executive order doesn't finish the fight; it begins it.
Mm-hmm. On another front, quietly, House Republicans, House and Senate Republicans, and the White House are moving in the direction to restart student loan collections. And you opined on the topic in The Spectator. Long overdue, restarting the student loan collections?
Right. Well, non-payment of student loans has been a problem now for close to 50 years, but it has just mounted up to the point where we're now talking about, I think it's $1.6 trillion in unpaid student loans, and the government has put a pause on this during the COVID epidemic, and Biden extended it and extended it and extended it, and even when it was time to, get people to start repaying, all he would talk about was excusing the loans. So yes, it's well past time that we begin to collect from students who owe the money. It's also well past the time that we ask universities to shoulder part of the burden here. When students default on their loans, the university has taken that money and enjoyed its use for the whole time that the students have been paying. It now sees no responsibility at all for paying any portion of it back. So what Congress is doing is a combination of let's restart the repayment of student loans, do it in a way that makes sure that people will pay. They won't garnish wages if they won't willingly pay. And we will also expect the universities that have created so many defaulting students to bear some of the cost of repaying that money. If they don't do it and the students don't do it, it's the ordinary taxpayer who does. And the unfairness of seeing, the working man in the United States pay the cost of Ivy League graduates' education is just unbearable.
Yeah, pay your loans. I loved in this article you talked about how you grew up in the era before massive student debt. Do you remember how much? Did you take out any student loans?
No, I didn't, but most of my classmates did, and they were loans that they usually were able to pay off within 2 or 3 years of graduation. My wife had hefty student loans, but by 3 years after she finished college, she was all paid up. It's doable. you have to save, you have to scrimp a little bit. But nowadays, saving and scrimping won't help you much if you graduate with a debt of $40,000, $50,000. I had a guy working for me who had a debt of $212,000. He's never going to pay it. He may try, but it will be indentured servitude for him forever. But why does a college let somebody get in that much debt is one of the questions we should be asking.
Well, this prompts the question about the federal government being in the student loan financing business at all, and it's probably that's going pretty fast in a pretty short period of time. So I don't see that happening under Trump, but certainly these moves are in the direction of the big question: is this something the federal government should be doing? And the answer is no, it shouldn't.
Right. I'm more radical on that. I think that the government made a mistake in making college so, quote, affordable. It wasn't really affordable. It just tricked young people who didn't have a good sense of the future how much debt slavery they would be in. As economists like to say, you get more of what you pay for. So when the government began subsidizing student loans and making them easily available, what we got was an explosion in the number of college graduates, an explosion that in no way matched the opportunities for people who had college degrees. So you basically get a kind of inflation here where people will seek more and more college in the hopes of securing a good future for themselves, where the better future would have been not to go to college and pursue something that led directly to a paycheck at the end of the week or the end of the month. More and more Americans are now grasping that. They see too many college graduates who are sitting at home in their parents' basement or working at McDonald's, and they think, I could do better than this, and they really, really can. So I think the era of student loans encouraging everybody to go to college when not everybody is going to find college useful or profitable is coming to an end, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, we mentioned last week some of the data out around this student loan business that finds that that young people who went back to the community college to get an associate's degree by the age of 25 have an exponentially lower unemployment rate than those with a bachelor's degree or a bachelor in arts or sciences degree. It was something like 3% to 12 to 15%. It's a big difference.
Right, and that's finally coming home to people. It's been a long time in trying to convince folks that there are better ways to go about your, quote, post-secondary education than going right off to an expensive college and loading yourself up with a lifetime of debt.
Something else that's happening, too, now it's a slow turning, but there are encouraging signs. Making Western civilization au courant again. The University of Texas Board of Regents last week announced a $100 million investment in the School of Civic Leadership, which focuses on civic education and constitutional principles. It's going to renovate a building on campus to become a permanent location for the Civic School and the Civitas Institute, which is an in-house think tank there. This, follows North Carolina doing something similar, not to that number, but there are some universities, even a public state university like University of Texas or Chapel Hill, that are picking up what some of us have been laying down.
Right. What's interesting about this, and it's in a lot of places besides the ones you mentioned, Arizona, Ohio, is that what the universities are doing, or the state legislatures are doing around the universities, is saying, no, we can't do anything about your tenured left-wing faculty who are going to continue to teach stuff that is no good for students. But we can do is set up what amounts to a new college within the college.
Yeah.
It won't have those left-wing radicals running it. We will go out and find real teachers who know their subjects and are willing to teach it in a manner that is constructive for our country. So I think it's wonderful what Texas has just done, and I'm hopeful that this will spread at least across all of red state America. Blue state America is going to wake up one day and find that the best students are going to be migrating to the other states.
Yeah, and I wonder how much the standing up of University of Austin at Texas, University of Austin, Texas, that new college, which just had its first incoming freshman class. I wonder how much that impacted, like in terms of they're not a competitor to the University of Texas by any means at this stage, but the idea that there is appetite out there and there are serious people moving in this direction, and we should get out front on this.
Yeah, I think the University of Austin, Texas, UTX, to those of us in the trade, is a great model, and it has inspired a lot of people. But I should say there's also the Hillsdales and the
Sure. Yeah.
efforts in Florida and other places where we are beginning to see that smart students have options other than going to the indoctrination factories.
Indeed. Peter Woods, the president of the National Association of Scholars, author of Wrath, America Enraged, and 1620, a critical response to the 1619 Project. Peter, thank you, as always, for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a good day. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Right now, MyPillow is having 2 sales in 1. The first is a closeout sale on Percale bed sheets. Any size and any color, just $25.